At Shirley, Lou and Associates, powered by First Financial Security, our mission is to help all people achieve financial security and peace of mind.
My team and I are here to help you reach financial security tomorrow and for generations to come.
She is one of the most sincere and compassionate people that I will ever meet in my life. She sincerely wants to build a legacy where no young woman that she meets is left destitute, that they are able to be self-sufficient, to provide for a family in an emergency, to build for their future and for our future generations.
At Shirley, Lou and Associates, we are changing the face of insurance and retirement plans. Our mission is to lead, empower, and grow. We are the home of tax-free retirement. We provide comprehensive planning for businesses, rollovers for retirees, and individual personal financial planning.
I'm a very people-oriented person. It's important for me to make sure my clients feel in a safe environment, make sure I feel in a safe environment, that I can trust the people that I'm working with. And I feel that here working with Shirley and my team. These people are more like family to me.
Shirley has donated time and resources to the Shelter House, Women of Good Works, Good 360, Women That Soar, local churches, and the Lisa Initiative. The Lisa Initiative helps inform, educate, and empower women and their families' financial security. We believe entrepreneurship is a possibility for all walks of life.
Reach out to us. We would love to have a conversation to see how we can help.
Even when you were little, you dreamed big. Maybe you had visions of the good you do in the world, how you might change your community. Now you have the means, but there are so many worthy causes in need of help. Where do you start? Your community foundation has the answer. It's local and dedicated to improving the community where you live. Here's how it works. You can start your own fund by giving cash, stock, real estate, or other assets. If you wish, your community foundation will help you match your interests in the arts, education, economic development, or other causes with charities that share your passion. Plus, you can decide whether you want to give now or later. Community foundations offer tax advantages and personalized services that create a seamless giving process for you. They'll work with you or your professional advisor. It's your choice. And as your giving helps to better your community, everyone benefits, now and in the future. Community foundations help you on your path to personal philanthropy, making it easier for you to do good. So when you're ready to give, visit your community foundation. Together, we can create something special that will last forever.
Watch me! Watch me! I got it! Watch me! I got it! Hey! I got something that makes me want to shout. I got something that tells me what it's all about. I got soul, and I'm super bad. I got soul, and I'm super bad. Now I got a move that tells me what to do. Sometimes it's easy. Now I got a move that tells me what to do. Sometimes I feel so nice, I want to try myself a few. I got soul, and I'm super bad. I'm love.
Little housekeeping there. Had to get a couple of those announcements in, including one for Romaine's Tea and one for the Community Foundation over there in Virginia. Of course, there are community foundations throughout the country and all in that space. And of course, this is the Shirley Lou Show. And of course, we're going to have a conversation around finance with one of her lead folks and all in that space. So I'm definitely going to hear what he's got to say about how he got involved in this whole financial lanes. And we do know that a lot of people are looking at their finances. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a friend of mine that is actually over there in Los Angeles, and they are actually supporting that strike that is going on with some of the support staff that is taking place there in the Los Angeles area. Because I want to say that the two friends, both are motivational speakers, but one of them works as a guidance counselor, and they were there to support some of their brethren in that space and all along those lines. So it was definitely good to have that conversation with one of the individuals. The one that is the guidance counselor is actually right out there on the picket lines. But I'll bring in Clarence and hear how he got involved in this whole space of finances and some of his thoughts about a number of ways that folks can get that windfall, whether they are part of that March Madness or not part of that March Madness, because we do know that some people were doing those whole pools, and somebody may have got lucky and won some money, and maybe after they won that money, they're going to want to know what to do with that money that they won. A lot of people had those brackets busted, so I don't know anybody that was picking a 16 to take down a 1 and for Purdue to make that early exit and all along those lines. But maybe Clarence was on top of that. I was expecting that surprise at all in that space, but we're going to find out if Clarence even did the brackets, and if he does, if he's ever had a windfall. Because I know I've done the brackets, did I think 2 this year, even though I didn't do one of the corporate ones, because sometimes companies that you work with will have group brackets and all along those spaces. But I've definitely also done fantasy football and a number of other things, and I think I've just won a dime here and a dime there, but I've never won the big prizes. But some people win the big prizes, and then they're like, what do I do with this extra money? Sometimes in the case of fantasy football, it falls right around Christmas. So you know where that money goes. It goes to Christmas gifts and all in that space. But I'm going to find out from Clarence how he got involved in this financial lane and some of his thoughts about some of the things that I just brought up and all in that space. So Clarence, glad to have you here with me and everything. I know that you're one of the many associates, and we've had some fantastic ones, including one that used to play professional football, and I think one that was involved in politics, that are now working with Shirley Lou. So we know that Shirley Lou grabs folks from all walks and lanes of society and all of that. So Clarence, I guess the first question the folks are going to be wanting to know is, how did you get involved in the financial lane? Were you always one of those business folks? Were you the kid that had the lemonade stand? Because you know that there are some kids that start doing business very early, and they've got that early lemonade stand that they are selling and already in the business mindset. And we do know that some people come from a family of business folks. Maybe your dad was a car dealer or one of those other folks that was in the business lane. So did you come through this that way, or did you get into sales, and particularly insurance sales, in a backdoor kind of way?
Well, actually, I got into the financial world purely by desperation of needing some additional income back in about 1985. So I started selling insurance to supplement my income. I have to be honest, I really didn't care for it very much at that particular time, because I was working for the U.S. Postal Service, and after I got off from the Postal Service, I had to go home, clean up, jump in my vehicle, and actually go to someone's home. And I didn't like that part. I love helping people, but I didn't like having to go to so many different people's homes, dealing with those different type of environments, because there were some situations, that might not have been so safe. Fast forward, I retired from the U.S. Postal Service, and then after 29 years, and I became a general manager director of a utility district that was $10 million in debt. Make a long story short, they got $10 million in the bank now, and I built a multi-million-dollar community center, created a senior citizen program, fed them free for over 8 years, built a $3.7 million park, built a new road for my community, installed lights all up in the median. I have accolades from the President of the United States, from the Governor of Texas. I have my own day by the city of Houston, been published in numerous magazines. I have a 501c3, and I go into huge communities and feed the whole communities. Even before the pandemic, I was doing all that. So I actually ran to be county commissioner here in Harris County, Houston, Texas, back in March, okay? Didn't win the election, but I came in 4 out of 7 candidates because they redistricted me out of my own house 3 months before the election. So the entire area changed, and nobody knew in the new area. So we'll get them next time.
Yes.
Yeah. But we also have a magazine, my wife and I, and Shirley Lou saw the magazine and wanted to participate because it is a national magazine called Women on the Rise. And so Shirley was receiving an award up in Dallas, Women's Soar at the time, invited us up to Dallas, and she was explaining the process to my wife. I told my wife, I said, that's great. You need to do that. Start selling insurance, because now it has changed that everything's done on the computer, from the comfort of your home or your office, and you just send a proposal to someone, do a Zoom, just like I'm sitting here talking to you, and they want the program, they doc sign, and you're done with it, man. It's just perfect, But the more I listened, I got to thinking, I said, I need to do that. so I had lost my license during the campaign because I didn't get them renewed because I wasn't planning on using them. So when I got with Shirley Lou, I quickly studied in 5 days. I had to retake the exam and got my license like everybody else. And it has really been great for me. For instance, this morning, I got up this morning and looked at my email. A young lady texted me and said, "Hey, I would love to hear about your insurance proposal." So I'm in the process of writing up an insurance policy for her and her 2 kids to make sure that they are protected. Because what most people have is an old insurance, which is term insurance. If you're on a job, you have term insurance. It's either for 10 years, 20 years. You might every now and then find for 30 years. But let's say that you're 50 years old and you get it for 20 years. Then you're 70 years old, and that's it. So now you got to go out and get insurance at age 70. And trust me, you will not be able to afford it, man, at that point, okay? So that is why it's so important to get something permanent. But in her case, she had a job and she had some term insurance. But what I impressed upon her was that she is not protected. And so she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you have some term insurance that will be left to your family, $100,000. It's okay." I said, "But what you need, you're not married. You need something to protect you while you're here living." So we have a policy called the UIL, which covers all the bases. For instance, let's say you take out a $500,000 policy and you may be investing in maybe about $400 a month. Well, most of that money is going into a savings account. So year by year, you're accumulating a huge amount of money that you might need a home within, 6, 7 years, new car, whatever. You can take that out, or for kids' education, you got money already saved. But let's say you become terminal ill. Doctors say you're going to die. Now you might have a lump sum already that you can take out, $350,000. Take that money out, go to Mexico, get those illegal drugs, cure yourself. You keep the money, Or let's say you become critical ill. Same scenario. You got a lump sum you can take out. Chronic ill, or you become injured. If you self-employed, that's a big one. You become injured, man, and what are you gonna do? You don't have income. So now you can have a monthly income coming in. It might be, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8,000 per month, depending upon the program that you participate in. But another big one is Alzheimer's disease. See, my mom died from Alzheimer's in the Black community. That's a serious disease. Not specifically from Alzheimer's, but from the effect of the Alzheimer's. She ended up having a heart attack, stroke, and died from all the medication and all, And so here you are, you're covered while you're living to protect you and your income, okay? And so that is a great feeling to be able to assist families and create generational wealth, because that's really what I'm all about. Money come, money go, man. But when you put a smile on people's face and you're able to assist them, show them something that they've never been shown before, and you're protecting them. Years ago, in the Black community as well as Hispanic community, we were not even given opportunity to participate in programs like this. The only thing that we could participate in was what they call those barrier policies. Hey, we got $1,000 worth of insurance for you, and you pay on it for life. Oh, we got $5,000. Most was $10,000. Okay, but now we're able to help families create generational wealth, and that's really what it's all about. Do you agree?
It sounds like it. Well, you raised a couple of interesting questions I had for you. One is you talked about folks that are self-employed. I do know some people in the creative field, as well as some that are working at various gig jobs, whether that's DoorDash or whether that's Grubhub or a number of the other gig-oriented jobs. How hard is it for somebody that is self-employed to get insurance? And is that something that y'all are doing a lot of work in that field? Because I do know that a lot of times people that are either self-employed or are working freelance gigs, they oftentimes will not deal with insurance because they're not part of a corporation. And of course, the corporations oftentimes will have corporate insurance plans and all in that space, but they are sometimes, like, hey, I'm working as a freelance writer or I'm working as a freelance musician, and a lot of times they will bypass the insurance because they feel that it is outside of their range of what they can afford. So I was just wondering, for those that are self-employed, what are your thoughts around that, and what advice would you give to folks that are thinking that they want insurance but are like, hey, I don't work for Blue Cross or I don't work for Glaxo because I'm here in North Carolina, and that's just two corporations that automatically come to my mind and everything, but I'm working for myself and I don't think that I can afford it. So what kind of advice would you give to people that are having those kind of thoughts?
Well, you're talking about health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about life insurance that has living benefits built in. Okay. And so that's the total difference. Health insurance is if you go to the doctor, they're going to pay for your drugs, blah, blah, blah. Can you afford to live without it, regardless of what it costs? Okay. Because it's always going to cost you more if you don't have it. But the life insurance programs that they have created, and the reason they created the UIL is because of what you're talking about now, because people were turned off. People were saying, I don't buy life insurance because I don't get the benefit. My people get it if I die. Right. So they sat down and created this program and said, okay, well, they have a point. So we're going to create a program that have living benefits that you can utilize while you're living. And as I just explained to you about being terminal ill, critical ill, if you injure yourself, if you have Alzheimer's, and those are things that happen, every day to people, okay, that could really just shut you down. There is no good in making $10 million, and now you can't make any money because you did not protect yourself, okay, because that money will go real quick when there's nothing additional coming in. And plus, we also have the annuities, for people who have that lump sum money, they have the 401k, they're not making any money out of it. People are losing money in the stock market every day, and not to mention crypto, okay? The safest place that it always has been to invest your money is through insurance companies. That's where the banks invest their money, insurance companies. Right. So, it's got to be good. And it's all regulated by the state. Okay. They come in and they cannot sell you a program unless they have the funds to pay you. See, I represent FFS, First Financial Security. We are a broker, but we represent 15, 20 different insurance companies. So every program we offer you to invest in is through an insurance company, and it's bagged by the insurance companies. Okay. Cockroaches will die before the insurance company fails.
That's what you'd ask you, because you got some people that are out there concerned because they did see what happened with that bank in California. They have heard about the bout of Credit Suisse, and there are some people that are afraid that could spill over into the insurance industry. I know that it's rare for insurance industries to fail, but there was an insurance agency, an insurance group that was here in North Carolina that unfortunately was part of not unfortunately, it was part of the Black Wall Street, because that was very important. It was part of the Black Wall Street, but it's unfortunate that it liquidated recently, and that was North Carolina Mutual, because definitely they just recently went through liquidation and all in that space. So I don't know that they're fully liquidated, but I know that they're in the process and all along those lines. So is there any concerns that you have around the state of the economy and what is happening with what apparently we're in the middle of a recession? Some people say we may be heading toward depression. I don't know that we're going that far and everything, but are there any concerns that you have in that regard?
Well, you just mentioned that you had a couple of banks to fail, but guess who's going to save those people? The insurance company, okay? Because they're insured by insurance companies. So insurance companies are going to bail them out, okay? The economy is always going to go up. The economy is always going to go down. Here again, the safest place to put your money has always been an insurance company, whether you do it in an IUL policy, whether you do it in annuity. We even have a 5-year pay for young brothers like yourself who say they want to retire in 5 years, as long as you're under 65. And we put together a program. You tell us what you want. If you want $10,000 a month coming in for life, if you want, $100,000, whatever, we can make it happen for you in 5 years. Or you just do a lump sum and be done with it, then we can make it happen for you. Here again, we're the best things as apple pie, insurance companies, okay? We only deal with the best companies, which are A-rated companies. So before you do any business with any company, you want to know what their ratings are, okay? I'm not sure what the rating was with the company that you're talking about that failed, but if they fail, the rating had to be pretty low to begin with. Okay. And so that's the indication of how well a company is doing or have done in the past, is to look at the ratings. Okay. Before I do business with any company, I look at their rating. I don't do business with any company less than an A+ rating. Okay.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Everything. Now, I've been fortunate. You talked about the age, and I'm glad that you think that I look young, and definitely younger than my dad, who's in the 80s. But yeah, I hit the big 6-0 number on last July. So I mean 6-1 coming up and everything. But somehow I managed to avoid the marriage and the kids. But I do have my 2 nephews, and all along those lines. So assuming I don't marry a young lady with kids, and that is not in the picture as of right now, doesn't mean it won't happen and everything, or marry somebody younger and somehow miraculously do a Mick Jagger and have kids of my own and everything. That being said, definitely the people that would be the heir apparents would be my nephews. So is that something that people need to consider if they don't have kids of their own, is looking at other members of their family, be that cousins or second cousins, or as I said, my nephews, and I do love my nephews dearly and all of that. But if I don't have kids of my own, is that something that folks should consider? And is that something that is a conversation that you have with your clients?
Absolutely, man. Nephew, grandkids, if you don't look out for them, who will? Okay. It's all about creating generational wealth, and that's how you do it, you know. And I commend you for even thinking about your nephew, you know. Legacy has to be left for somebody. You say you don't have any kids, so you've already selected someone, you know, and so I can assist you with that, and we can put together a good program for yourself. And, you know, and how old is your nephew?
The nephews are 13 and 14. They'll be 14 and 15 in August of this year. So they haven't got their, one's in high school, the other is heading to high school in another year or so. But yeah, they're heading toward high school. So in another 4 or 5 years, they'll be doing that whole college thing and all in that space. And my brother has got 2 what amounts to stepkids as well. And I definitely love Jack and Effie dearly also. So they would probably be included in whatever it would be put in that planning as well.
Yeah, we can do a program, you know, give them all, you know, equal share, however you want to divide it up. And then while you're living, you already have the living benefits for yourself to protect yourself, to make sure that you can live that grand lifestyle, because don't look like you've ever missed a meal in your life.
Well, I try not to miss a meal, but I do have to teach you about one of your other careers and all along those lines. And I definitely got to do something about that whole diet thing and get back to my trim high school weight, or at least my trim college weight, and all in that space. But definitely, you know, you mentioned another field that you had gone into some time back, that being the post office. And I do have some friends that worked for the post office. And of course, the post office gets a bad rap sometimes, because sometimes some craziness will come out of the post office and all along those lines. But you did have a long and illustrious career there. I'm imagining you got tired of being chased by the dogs, because that's one of the stereotypes and everything. But what was your own assessment of the post office, since you did have that long, illustrious career there? And what is your thoughts about the way that it is handled now?
Well, let me tell you, the Postal Service definitely provided for me and my family and gave me a good lifestyle. And I had a lot of fun working for the Postal Service. No job is perfect, but I can't say anything bad about the Postal Service, man. I was one of the first non-vets to come into the Postal Service. I think I was maybe about 20, 21 years old when I came into the Postal Service. So I was able to retire when I was about 40 years old. So I retired early with 29 years with the Postal Service. And that's another reason why I'm an advocate for insurance, because I actually got injured while I was working for the Postal Service. I was delivering mail one day, and I walked into this little townhouse, and I was viciously attacked by something that just kept hitting me. I didn't know what it was. The temperature was maybe about 102 degrees, and my neck was swollen. What it was yellow jack wasps. Okay. Ooh. And I got stung about 8 times, neck huge, man. I could barely talk, tongue swelling. I rushed myself to the emergency room. They said, yeah, you got stung 8 times. You know? And, you know, automatically I knew I had damage in my neck, because I couldn't even turn my neck, blah, blah, blah. And I kept telling them I had problems with my back. And they said, well, no, it's in your head, it's in your head. year later, I was at work and couldn't move. You know, my back went out. So from that one freak accident, you know, I damaged my neck and back. Okay, you know, and so my point is, things happen. You know, and looking at me, I'm 70 years old now. Okay, so no one can tell that something's wrong with me by looking at me. I've never even had anyone even guess my age in my entire life. Okay, but things happen in life. Okay. And so that's why when you're young, it's best to go ahead and take out a permanent life insurance policy versus trying to wait until that 20-year term in or whatever. Now you're 70 years old and ain't nobody going to insure you. And if they do with a permanent life insurance policy, trust me, you won't be able to afford it. So while you're young and healthy, you need to go ahead and take out that permanent life insurance policy that's going to last, because we can run into 120 years old. That way you never have to worry about replacing, because people are living longer. My grandmother lived to be 104 years old.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because some people will be saying that they're not interested in insurance because there's whole talk about people living definitely well into their hundreds. And in some cases, there's even some futurists that are saying that if we are not careful, we could even live well into our multiple hundreds and maybe even a mortality, and all in that space. There was some futurists that recently came out with that thought, and I'm going like, well, I don't know that everybody wants to live to be 1,000 or whatever that would lead to and everything. But is there any danger that you see of, yeah, I know what you said about insurance being a very safe business, but is there any danger that it will be an obsolete business if we get to the point where people are living longer and longer and maybe they don't take insurance till they're 80 or 90?
Well, that is what's so great about UIL. As I said before, when you pay a premium, a lot of that money goes into a separate savings account. So it's going to show you an illustration year by year about how much money you are projected to have. So at some point, you might say, well, you know what? I'm going to take all this $200,000 cash out and just put $50,000 over here for my burial and pocket the rest and go have a siesta.
Have a long siesta. That is something that some people may be considering. I just want to get back to one of the other things that you talked about with your business and everything, because you did mention that you had the pleasure of doing some development. And I know that that is something that we are not doing enough of, because I actually recently talked to another brother that's in real estate, and I want to say he might even be in the Texas area as well. And he was on one of our news shows, and I cannot think of his name right now, and all in that space. I know he was a primary Republican, but I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But I just wondered, I know he was talking about the fact that it's like some ridiculously low amount of brothers and sisters that are in real estate. And I know some people are looking at group real estate, but you were developing stuff in your community, it sounds like, for several years after retiring from the post office. So one, what gave you that motivation? And two, do you think that we need to be doing more as minority communities in that field? Because I know a lot of folks are thinking about business opportunities, but I don't know that we're thinking about real estate or even using our own properties that we have. I know that my mom inherited, along with her sisters, one of which has passed recently, and all in that space in the last couple of years, but they have multiple properties, and on those properties is timber. So they have definitely sold some of the timber, and they definitely have got it in the wheels that property is passed on to the next generation, coming back to that generational wealth that you were talking about as well. But I was just wondering, do you think that we do enough with the properties that we have, and should we also be looking at buying real estate? Because I know here in Durham, there are a few, I know there's one sister that was buying up some property. I know there are a couple of other people that are buying up a property, but it's not a lot of us. And I know that there is a gentleman that's looking at getting some property and turning that into an esports facility. But I just don't think that we're doing enough in that lane. But you did the work, so I was just wondering, what are your thoughts in that space?
Well, you have great questions. Absolutely, you can never lose by investing in real estate. It's really great to invest. My son-in-law, he buys distressed property. You know, people are losing their property. He'll come in, offer X number of dollars, and it's very profitable for him. You know, he makes more money than, you know, six figures off of one deal sometimes, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know. But the way I got into it, one day I was walking in my community after I retired, and I looked around and I saw all the elderly people just sitting on their porch. And I said to myself, I need to create a program for them, give them something to do, okay? And a week later, I received a a notice saying that they needed somebody on the water board. All water districts have directors, but they don't have general managers. So when I came into my water district, I discovered that they were $10 million in debt. And so I fired the attorney, the CPA, tax assessor, and hired all new people. But when I brought the new people in, I negotiated the salaries, okay? And within 5 years, I invested $5 million in the infrastructure, so my communities never flooded. A year later, I built a multi-million-dollar community center, and that's when I created the senior citizen program. And then that's when we only had one road going into subdivision. That's when I built the road, and that's when we built $3.7 million park. We paid cash for all these things, and then when I resigned after 16 years, we had $10 million in the bank. Okay, I have a high school education. Never even thought about doing any of the things that I've done. But one thing that I've learned in life is that God, when he puts his hands on you, he gives you the knowledge to do the job that he needs you to do. Okay. And so that is, what has helped me all my life. God has always just given me knowledge. So when I walk in, I'm probably one of the most knowledgeable people sitting at the table when I decide to take on a task, because I do my homework. Okay.
No, that makes a lot of sense and everything. A couple of things. What the Parks and Rec, do you think that we are doing enough to actually encourage our young people and even our older people to get involved in the parks? You definitely teased me earlier about the weight, and I know I got to start getting back on my walk routine and everything in that space. But I'm wondering, I remember when I was in high school, there was definitely some PE requirements, and I need to check with my nephews. I'm not even sure those are required as much as they used to be. But I was just wondering, do you think that we are doing enough to actually get our kids and even our elderly involved in their physical health?
No, we're not. No, we're not. Because we have created a generation of what I call lock-key kids. They go to school, they come home, and they're inside their house. And if you said, let's go out and play, it's like, what for? So in my day, everybody, they wanted to go out and play, but in today's world society, and then I guess it's a whole new world too. It's dangerous. My grandson, he's growing up in the middle of the COVID. So at one point, he didn't even want to go outside because he was afraid. And it's really terrible when a kid come to you and tell you that they're afraid that they're gonna die. I remember when I was running for county commissioner and I was at a church speaking, and they had maybe about 15, 20 kids. One kid came up and told me that he didn't want to live because he was being bullied at his school, and the principal and the teachers, won't do anything to help him. Another kid, told me they were, contemplating suicide. And my heart just went out, man. In my day, the biggest thing that, I had to worry about was, I was going to get a Whopper meal that day, not worried about if I was going to make it home from school, not worried about a bully, killing me, or not worried about somebody coming into a school and killing everybody. I wasn't worried about COVID back in those days. And so our kids have so much to worry about now, man. And so it is up to men like you and I to step up to the plate, to give them encouragement, to teach them, show them a better way. Okay. And that's what Clarenceville is all about.
No, there's no doubt about that. I'm definitely enjoying your thoughts in the way that you are very much of a positive person. You just actually said something earlier, which is that even without the quote unquote college degree and that big degree and everything, that you are actually smarter and probably have done more than some of our college graduates and even some of our graduate school graduates have done as well, and definitely some of the lawyers and doctors and all. But I just wondered, because I do have a couple of friends of mine that are in that same kind of space. They, for whatever reasons, chose not to go to college or go to the military or some of the other ways that you can get trained, but they have had tremendous amount of successes in their fields, including some in technology fields like the virtual reality and metaverse and different things along those lines. But I was just wondering, how important is it for folks to recognize their gift and to use their gifts in their mind, even if they opt not to go to college? Because I do think that we sometimes frustrate some of our young people by thinking that it's college or the military, or that they are doomed to be worker bees. And nothing wrong with being a worker bee, but it seems like they are saying that that's what they are doomed to be, and that they don't need to be looking at entrepreneurship and other things. But I'm just wondering, well, how do you encourage people? Because a lot of people get very frustrated because they don't get the support that they would like to get from their family and friends and all in that space. So what are some of the ways that you try to encourage people when you see them being discouraged?
I tell people you're going to have to be educated one way or the other. There's nothing like a dumb fool. You don't want to be that person. When I came up, believe it or not, nobody ever encouraged me to go to college. Didn't know anything really about college. My mother never finished school. She had to stop school to help her sister graduate. Her sister became a nurse. My dad had to stop school to help support his family. So they really didn't know anything about education. And nobody talked to me about going to college. But what I do remember, we had civil service people came to my school one day, and they said, if you don't plan on going to college, you should get a civil service job. And that just for some reason stuck with me. And then in my senior year, I was sitting out by the bleachers by myself, just completely lost, man. Didn't know what to do. And one of my coaches came up to me and said, Miller, what are your plans for the future? I said, Coach, I don't know. He said, man, you know what? You're a smart guy. You're going to be okay. You're going to do something. And that stuck with me. that just stuck with me. And so I just tell people, man, you got to have it here. You got to have the attitude that you can do it. And that's what I taught my daughter, and that's what I teach my grandkids, that at the end of the day, I don't care how much education you have, because the education itself is just not going to do it. Because I know a lot of people with doctorate degrees or whatever, but they're not self-motivated. So you got to be self-motivated. You got to have that will to say, I can do that, do this. And if you say you can do it, then you're going to put the time and the work in, because at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. Because when I go sit at the table, I sit at the table all the time. I've had a lot of people work with me that had doctorate degrees, master's degrees, but they couldn't do anything until I I got my seat at the table and told them what we need to do. Because I put the time in.
Sometimes the boss is the one that makes the decisions, no matter what their degree is, and all along those lines. So I can definitely understand that, and I've definitely had some bosses that had different levels of education and all along those lines. What do you say when you hear about some folks that are taking advantage of our community as well? Because I do know that there are some people that will make all kinds of promises of what they're going to do, but they don't always back it up, and they sometimes make the promises and don't even have intentions of backing it up. And that can even be from our own community, because I know that even in the Black Wall Street, there were some people both in Tulsa and here in Durham that basically sold us down the river, and because they were looking for their riches and not necessarily the riches of the greater good, and all in that space. So I'm sure you've run across that in Houston, some folks that might have been selling down the river and maybe even making promises, because my mom actually ran for Secretary of State here in North Carolina. So I know that there were some promises made to her that were possibly not kept, and all in those lines. So I just wondering, how do you deal with those folks that make empty promises, and that they're empty promises, or in some cases you find out after the fact?
Well, I try not to deal with people that don't have God in them, okay? Mm-hmm. Because if you have God in you, then you're going to do what's right. Because everybody knows what's right. You just choose not to do it, okay? It's never been about the dollar bill for me. It's always been about, who can I help achieve their goals, to do something just fantastic. And I always encourage people, to pass it on to someone else, okay? I mean, quick money don't last long. I tell people all the time, it just don't last long, okay? I would rather be able to, sleep at night and wake up and know that I have helped you, versus that I made a quick dollar, I went out and bought a car, and it's sitting in the garage, and just don't do it for me, okay? Mm-hmm. Might do it for somebody else, but it just don't do it for me, man.
No, I understand that. As you said that, I was thinking about that quick money, because we do know that whether it's members of the Houston Rockets or the Houston football teams or even some of the other sport teams around, and definitely some of our entertainers. We get a number of folks that they're fortunate because it is a very few that actually make it. I think it's less than 1% in some of those industries and everything that actually make it out of those that are trying to make it. They get that quick money, and then they are get all their neighbors and friends to tell them what they want them to buy, and some of the times they fall for that and they don't necessarily invest in business ventures and all in that space. And we do know the many stories of the folks that got that quick buck, whether it was a quick windfall, and earlier I was talking about those quick windfalls that you can get off of fantasy football that might only be a few $1,000s, or the $100 and $1 million deals, and all of that space that some of our athletes and entertainers get, and you turn around and they're broken, sitting on the street trying to make ends meet, and all in that space. So I just wonder if you've had some experiences dealing with those folks, and what advice have you given them to bounce back? Because we do know that sometimes they were given bad advice at the beginning, and then they've got to figure out how to bounce back, because maybe they decided to buy mom, dad, every last uncle, and every last cousin that house, and we do know that that can add up very quickly if you do that into being broke.
Okay, I'll give you a quick example. At one point, I had a real estate license, loan office license, insurance license, and I had a residential commercial pressure washing business. So we put the loan on the house, give you the insurance, find a house, and then if it was dirty, we'd pressure wash it for you. And this was at the height of the period where interest rate was like, I think it was like 12-14% or something like that. It was really high. And so as a loan officer, what a lot of people don't realize is a loan officer can dictate, what percentage he want to give you. Of course, the higher the percentage, the more money. And that's why, let's say if you want to buy a home, loan officer might say, I can get you at a 6.9%. How does that sound to you? Mm-hmm. You say, ooh, that's good. Okay, I got him. Well, he probably could have got you like a 3-point interest rate. Okay. Right. So higher the interest rate, more money. But even when I could have gotten that, 15, 16, 17% interest rate, I told my people, don't ever do that with one of my clients. I want to make sure at the end of the day that I put these people in a home that they can afford, and so I can sleep at night, because I don't want to wake up knowing that these people, bought a home for me, I financed it, and they are out, living on the streets. That is not what I'm all about. Okay. And people say, you're crazy. You're leaving all the money on the table. But I noticed during that period, there was a whole bunch of them went to jail.
So they were not living life right, and they went to jail, and that's definitely what can happen. You can get yourself in all kinds of trouble if you don't do the right thing. You had earlier mentioned, and I wanted to hear your thoughts about this, is how I do remember the door-to-door salesman, and that became something that a lot of people were interested in doing. There was a lot of people that were not that interested in doing it because, one, you never knew what you were going to run into when you were knocking on those doors. I want to say in college, I either sold encyclopedias or Gerby vacuums. I think it was the Gerby vacuums, and that only lasted for about a week or two, because after knocking on a couple of them doors and getting a couple of them rejections, I knew that was not for me, and all along the space and everything. But I was just wondering your thoughts, because it does sound like it is easier to sell insurance, like you said, now, because you don't necessarily have to walk into if you're a germaphobe, you don't have to walk into a house that is going to be messy. You don't have to worry about those crazy dogs and the crazy kids. You can, like you said, do it in the comfort of your own home and everything. But I'm sure that there are times that you still have to do that door-to-door, person-to-person visit, and you still have to use those people skills, but maybe not as much, because we do know that there are some folks that don't want to always be in the company of people because of certain things that they don't like about people, whether that's their morals or their cleanliness, the number of other factors that can be in there. So I just wondered, is it easier in your mind to be an insurance agent now because you don't have to deal with all those quirks of humanity?
Absolutely. I think this is the best time. This is the year of the insurance agent. And the reason I said is because people have lost a tremendous amount of money in the stock market, and they're still losing money. Okay. Crypto, I've lost money myself in crypto. The safest place to always invest your money has always been in insurance, with insurance companies. Okay. So when I say easier, I think that people are looking at that now. The information is out there, and that's all people need is information. And so we're putting the information out. They know even the big banks invest in insurance companies. Okay. And so it's a good place to be right now. And for instance, this morning, I met a young lady just last week, and she texted me this morning and said that she was ready. So I'm writing up a policy with her and her 2 kids. And then I had a plumbing situation. So my plumber came over and I asked him, I said, do you have any type of life insurance? He said, no. I did a quick illustration. I showed it to him. He said, I like that. He said, let's do it. You know, I haven't even left my home. You know?
It's already sold 2 or 3. That's amazing. How easy is it to get insurance? I did not mention it, but it's not unknown fact and everything. But I had an aunt that passed at MS. My younger brother actually is dealing with the earlier stages of it. So hopefully he's got many, many more years of life. And you definitely mentioned Alzheimer's. And I did have a great aunt that had some Alzheimer's. And I do remember her sometimes having memories of relatives that were not in the room with her and all in that space. And definitely you just had to respect that was taking place if they're having conversations that you did not see the people there. I remember my mom talking to me about some of the conversations that she had, and the person had long gone, but she was acting as if the person was there, because sometimes you don't want to challenge the folks. But one, I'd love to hear your own experiences with Alzheimer's, and also, is it easier now to get insurance if you are dealing with medical conditions, be that Alzheimer's or MS or diabetes or a number of other health issues that strike our community? Because I do know that there are some folks that had insurance, but maybe they want to increase it, or maybe they didn't have it at all. And then they are given these various kinds of diseases, and then they are afraid that they may not be able to get any sort of insurance because of the pre-existing conditions. But I just wanted to know, what are your thoughts around that?
Well, it's got to vary per person, depending on, how severe your cases are. It is our job as an agent to submit the information. We're going to ask you the questions. We submit the information. They have a medical database that if you go to the hospital or whatever, your information is already in that database. So all insurance companies have access to that. Okay. So once they hit that database, if you have cancer, you're definitely in that database. Okay. So once they check out your information, and I write that proposal, they might come back and give you a kind of offer, and it's up to you to decide. Okay, they said, well, we might not cover cancer because you've already had cancer. We might not cover Alzheimer's disease because you already got it, but we'll still do a policy for you. Blah blah blah. So it's per person, depending upon your situation, because they can't just do a blanket policy, and say everybody just come on in. Blah blah blah. Now you might have, if you work for a company, that's totally different, because they're only offering term insurance because they know once they fire you, you quit or you retire, you don't have that anyway. So, but that is a whole group that's totally different. Okay.
That makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of people that are watching will be definitely interested in hearing about Alzheimer's, and we do know that is something that, as you said, does impact our community more than we like to think it does. But I wondered your experience with that and what kind of advice you would give to folks that are dealing with that. Like I said, I did have that great on, and there might have been some other relatives that were dealing with the impact of Alzheimer's as well. But I'm just wondering your thoughts as to how it is impacting our community and what we can do to prevent it as much as possible, but also to deal with it if it does come into our lives and all in that way.
Well, I don't care what type of sickness or disease you have. If you have the funds, it's going to make your living conditions a lot better. Okay. And the problem that we had when my mom had Alzheimer's, we didn't have the funds to really assist her as much as we wanted to. Okay. Originally, she lived up in Huntsville, Texas, little country town, not a huge population. But mom got to the point to where she would just take off and just leave the house. And she's 5 miles away from the house, just walking. And fortunately, since we're from Huntsville, Texas, and she did it twice, there were people who picked her up who knew her and brought her home, which created a dangerous situation because we were all working. And so we couldn't afford to stay there. And that is another reason why you need to protect yourself with a program like an IUL that will give you some funds that where if we had the funds, then we could have probably paid somebody to sit with her in the comfort of our own house. But we didn't have that, so we ended up having to put her in a nursing home. Now, my mom only weighed like 100 pounds soaking wet. And she's an old country girl. She's very friendly. So when we put her in a nursing home, she's just friendly. She just wanted to go talk to someone in another room because that's what she was accustomed to. And they saw her as a hard patient to get along with. So they kept her drugged up. They gave her too much drugs, okay, which caused her to have a stroke and a heart attack, and she died, okay, so which was a very unfortunate thing. But if we had had a policy like this, we would have had the funds, we could have kept her at home, even though we were working. So that's why it's so important to protect yourself, while you're able, you're working while you're able, to do so. Because once you develop a disease or sickness, it's too late.
No, that's very much true. I'm glad you brought the facts up about the lobbies and everything, because some people are definitely saying you were in the political lane, that two of the strongest lobbies are the insurance lobby and the pharmaceutical lobby. And some people say that that is not a great thing. Some people say it's an amazing thing because of, like you said, everything is insured. And of course, we do know that there are a number of innovative medicines that are put out there as well. But some people say that there is too much control but of the politicians by those lobbies. And of course, you can add the gun lobby and a number of other ones in there as well. So as a person that ran for politics, and it sounds like you were going to run again, because it definitely sounds like you're not giving up on that opportunity and everything. What is your own thoughts about the nature of lobbyists, and do they have too much clout in those particular industries, or do they need to have even term limits? So if you get to be an officer in the ward that you're running for, would you be all right if they said, hey, you only get to do it 2 or 3 times, then we got to get somebody younger and all in that space?
Well, lobbyists do have a lot of power. It's just the nature of the beast. When I ran for office, I didn't ask anyone to run. I knew the current commissioner. We basically went to the same cigar shop. I was smoking cigars back in the day. Don't do it anymore. And I was actually congratulating him sincerely. And this voice spoke to me and said, run for his office. I'm saying to myself, well, the man's a commissioner. What does he do? I didn't even know what a commissioner did at that point. I had to go back and Google him. And once I did, I discovered that everything I had been doing, which was building the roads, building parks, I was over water, wastewater. That's what a commissioner did. I said, my God, it's just so awesome, man. Then I said, well, I don't qualify because I don't have a college education. Well, you know what the qualifications are to run for county commissioner? 18 years old.
18 years old and live in the district.
Live in the district and registered voter. You can run for president of the United States, be 35 years old, be a U.S. citizen. Right? It doesn't say anything about education. If people vote for you, vote for you. I know people that have been incarcerated 2-3 years, gotten out and ran for office. I know
there's a guy right now. We were talking about that on our news show. There's a guy that is notorious in terms of like activism and all in that. But in his case, it was more from the right. But yeah, I think the Tiger King has added his name into the presidential race and everything. So he definitely was convicted for that attack he had against the woman animal rights activist and all along those lines. But he said he's going to run for president. So there's nothing to stop him from running for president, because they didn't say anything about felons being as preempting you from running and all of that space. I'm sure if you win, then they might go after you in an indictment, kind of like they're going after Trump and everything. But there's no rule that says that you can't run while you are in prison.
Right. And, through I actually campaigned for 4 years. And out of the whole 4 years, I never had anybody to challenge me or question my level of education. In fact, people came up to me and said, man, you are very knowledgeable in that field, because that's what I did. Okay. It's for instance, like now, I'm telling you, I have real estate license, loan officer license, insurance license. I don't care if you're a doctor, a lawyer, whoever. When it comes to insurance, that's my field. You might know medicine, but that's my field. When it comes to real estate, when I was doing real estate, that's my field. So I study my field. Okay, I'm the expert when I come to the table in my field. And that's really what it's all about.
No, you
No one
definitely got to be,
give credit.
definitely got to be the expert in your field. There's no doubt about that. I know we're going to wind down. I've definitely thoroughly enjoyed this hour, and hopefully you'll come back on another episode as well, because we always do these on these hourly basis and all in that space. But as we wind down, I had a couple of very quick questions for you. One is, what is your thoughts about Shirley Lou, and how did you get involved with Shirley Lou as a businesswoman and all in that space? And I was also curious, and actually you can answer this question before the Shirley Lou one, because I do come from the world of media, and you did mention that y'all decided to start a magazine, and I'm guessing that neither one of you have a journalism degree, and I know that my parents started a radio station, and neither one of them had a journalism degree either, but it lasted for about 12 years and was 10 to 12 years and was very successful. And part of it was that they didn't see enough communications about certain music that they loved, be that jazz, be that blues, be that R&B, or even early hip hop, and they definitely didn't hear enough of our voices being amplified. So with dad having a college engineering degree and mom being trained as a guidance counselor, and definitely having friends that, I don't think any of the friends had a journalism degree either, they decided to start a community radio station in rural North Carolina. And it sounds like y'all have a similar story there in Texas. So I'm guessing that neither you or your wife have a media background, but you saw a need and you decided to celebrate those women leaders. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, well, for instance, Shirley Lou is an incredible individual, as you probably already know yourself. Her energy is just incredible. I love her spirit. Everything about Shirley Lou says that she is there to help other people. And I mean, you just can't beat that. And I detected that from the moment I met her. And she's one of the most friendliest people that you could ever meet. Now, Shirley represent, as I do, FFS, and we are broken. So we represent 15, 20 different insurance companies, you know. But from FFS to all the different insurance companies that we have, and as I told you, I was in the business like 30 some years ago, and the business has changed. Now it is so animated, it's so incredible that where everything is at your fingertips. You know, if I need to know about a product, I don't have to get on the phone and call Shirley Lou. I just go into my back office and tell them exactly about the product. If I have a problem, they got 20, 30 people that's going to call to assist you, from the staff of FFS all the way to all the different insurance companies to represent. They're hands-on, and it's just incredible, because back in the day, I didn't have all that. It was just me and the general agent, you know, and if he didn't know, I didn't know. You know, so, but now, you know, everything is at your fingertip, man. You need to know something. Oh, go in your back office. Oh, they've already got the information there. In fact, if those of you who are out there that might need some additional income, I would encourage you to give me a call at 281-580-7995. I'm Clarence Miller, and I can assist you, because it's only $100 to come in with FFS as an agent. We deal with an insurance company called 80 Broker, because you have to be sponsored by an insurance company, but they have all the information that you need to assist you with your insurance license. I got my license in 5 days. And as you know, insurance agents are some of the highest paid people in the world. Okay. And so I'd like for you to join my team. If you love helping people, if you love helping creating generational wealth, you know, give me a call, Clarence Miller, 281-580-7995. Or if you want to protect your family and take out a program, feel free to give me a call at that same number, okay? And I will assist you.
Sounds good. And how did you get involved in media? That was the other question that I was curious about, and all along those lines, because I know you said it was your wife's vision, but I'm guessing neither one of you had that media background.
Oh, you talking about with the magazine?
The magazine back.
Actually, that was my wife's vision. You know, I'm just the husband that supports her. But my wife, she's a doctor. She has a doctorate degree, you know, so she's a very intelligent woman. You know, she loves computers. She loves writing, you know, so she's on top of her game. In fact, she also is authorized to give out the presidential Joe Biden Lifetime Achievement Award. Mm-hmm. And we just had an event up in Dallas this weekend where we gave about 30, 35 people Lifetime Achievement Awards from the President of the United States. And we did a package deal that, you know, if we gave you the award, we put you in our magazine, and the magazine is global. So the magazine is sold in several countries. And that's how we connected with Shirley Lou, because she saw the magazine online and wanted to get into the magazine. Okay.
It sounds amazing. It sounds truly amazing. You got some folks that will look at somebody that is of a different class or a different economics, and they will rule that person out. And I've seen that on both sides, meaning white collar workers that rule out blue collar workers and blue collar workers that rule out white collar workers. But it sounds like you and your wife have different levels of education, but you didn't let that stop y'all's romance and everything. So what advice do you give for folks that are using that as barriers to what could be successful relationships?
Well, before I met my wife, I was dating a young lady who ran an entire office for an attorney. Okay. She was working 12, 14, 15 hours a day, and she was making good money. I said, but my God, you're killing yourself. Okay. And I think that's what kind of frightened her about me. She said, well, this man's retired and he only has a high school education, but she didn't take the time to know me. Okay. To know that I had a little something up here, So the next time I saw her, I had a S550 Mercedes that was paid for, and I was rolling back. My home was paid for. See, so you can't just judge a book by its cover, okay? Because you can have all the education in the world, but if you got a man that's motivated, he's going to find a way. If he got to go out there and cut some yards, pick up trash, I'm going to tell you, the Hispanics out there cutting those yards for $10, $15 a pop. If you go to their home, if you could look underneath their mattress, they probably got $200,000-$300,000 cash money underneath the mattress because they don't believe in banks. So you just can't look at a person and say, you know what, I wouldn't do that, or they ain't got nothing, because you don't know what a person has. Okay.
That's very true. You have no idea what they got. They might have more than you
That's
think they have and everything. What do you say to the young folks that look at the older folks and the things that we have gone too far and that we have done enough and that we are putting a strain on them and everything? Because I do know that there are some young folks that are looking at what's going on with Social Security and other things, and they're feeling like they are going to take the brunt of that and that we're getting the riches from that and all in that space. But I also know that there are some young folks that have some tremendous wisdom, and sometimes those old folks don't give them their just dues as well. So when you hear about these generational divides, what is your answer to that as somebody that is in the 70s but still sounds like you've got the mindset and the mentality of some 30-year-olds that I know as well? So I just wonder, what is your attitude when you hear about these generational divides, and do you think that both generations need to listen to each other more than they actually are?
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of the best things you do is sit down and have a conversation with a person, and that's how you really get to know people, know what they need, know how you can assist them. And for those young folks that feel like, hey, we are depleting the system, we built a system. Okay, it's our money. We deserve it. Okay. Now my question is, what are you going to do? Okay, what can you do better? How many people are you going to help? Because you living on our backs. The system you in now, you're here simply because of us. Okay. So you can't deny us. And in my opinion, they're not treating senior citizens, giving them what they actually need. Senior citizens deserve total respect. They deserve to be protected. They deserve what they're getting and more. I was 65 years old even before I guess I realized I was a senior citizen. We were going to the movies, and my wife said, "Why don't you use your senior citizen discount?" I said, "Well, that's for senior citizen." She said, "My God, man, you're 65 years old." So I told the guy I want my senior citizen discount. They called the manager on me. The manager came up and he was upset and talking about calling the police because he's tired of people coming here using the senior citizen discount. And I gave him my identification. He said, "Oh my God." But I never see myself. When I was 50, I didn't see myself at 50. When I was 65, I didn't see myself at 65. And now that I'm 70, I'm just Clarence Miller, man, and I just believe in keeping it moving, okay? And while I'm keeping it moving, I just want to help as many people and help them come up as I can. When I came to the utility district, there was nobody like me getting those $1 million contracts. So I'm very proud to say that I opened it up to minorities to get those $1 million contracts. And if I would have became commissioner, I would have been doing the same thing, because I believe that, hey, everybody should have a seat at the table. One guy told me, "That's going to be your downfall." I said, "Why is that?" He said, "You want everybody to eat." I said, if everybody can't eat, I don't even want to eat. That's Clarence Miller.
So that makes sense and everything. What do you say to those folks that are thinking that there it needs to be a limit? And my mom actually was on the board of a bank, and they did have her retire. I want to say when she was like maybe around 70 or 75, because they did have that age limit. And then, like I mentioned earlier, there are some folks that would like to put term limits on things like the Supreme Court and on things like the House, our U.S. House and our U.S. Senate, and even some of our state legislatures as well, be that Texas, be that North Carolina, be that California, or wherever. So do you think that we need some infusion of young ideas? And also, do you think that we need a term limit, or do you think that, hey, if the person can still do the job at 80 or 90, let them do the job?
Well, I don't think anybody should just automatically have a job for life, because there's no motivation for you to be creative or do anything. You're there for life. Okay. 4 years. Okay. Then you got to rerun or whatever. I think that should be the maximum, in my opinion. Okay. Because people change, health change, ideas change, whatever, but to have a life appointment, no, I've never been a fan of that, never will be. Okay.
That makes a lot of sense. As we wind down, the last two questions I've got for you is, what are some of the misconceptions that you think people have? I know a lot of people, when they think of Texas, they think of it being a very conservative state. They definitely think of some of the folks, including your current governor, and all in that space, but they also probably have some other, and of course the sports franchises. But what are some of the misconceptions that you think people have of Houston in particular and Texas in general?
Well, most people think we're just country bumpkins. We live in a wild, wild west. I mean, definitely the rules are a little bit different in Texas. But if you come to Texas, you'll fit in real quick. Then you'll hate that you took so long getting here, because at the end of the day, we have some great people that live in Texas. It's like any other city in any other part of the world. It's what you bring to the table. Okay, if you come into Houston, Texas, and you look around and say everybody is mean, then guess what? You're gonna meet all the mean people. If you come to Houston, Texas, and say there's nothing but troublemakers and killers, and that's what you're gonna meet. But if you come here with the attitude to say, these are some great, giving people and most friendly people, then that's what the universe is gonna bring you. Okay.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can definitely agree with that. No doubt about that and everything. One thing I get everybody to do, and you did it earlier, but if you want to give people your contact information, either that telephone number or an email to reach you at, and all in that space. And if you've got any final thoughts that you want to share, and then I get everybody that's on any of the shows, whether it's the Shirley Lou show or some of my own individual shows, the network is heard in a variety of places, like around 200 countries, and definitely heard all over the world. So one of the things that I try to do is encourage peace and definitely positivity. So any message you have for positivity and hope that you want to share with our global community, I'm sure that they would love to hear that, because we do know, as you alluded to earlier, that particularly our young folks have gone through everything from a pandemic to, if you want to go back to 9/11, if they were born in 2001 and everything, that horrible attack. And definitely we know that war in Ukraine is taking place. And of course, there have been all kinds of both man-made and natural disasters that we faced over the last 20 or 30 years. So we've been through a lot these last several years and decade or two. But any way that we can encourage the world, that's what I'm all about. So if you have a message of positivity and hope, I'm sure that they would love to hear that. And also any ways that folks can get in touch with you, and any final thoughts that you have as well.
Okay. Mac, Lee, I am just excited, and I appreciate the fact that you allowed me to come on your show. I think that you're at the top of your game. It has been an excellent interview. You allowed me to say a few words, and I certainly appreciate that. My name is Clarence Miller, and I would love to be your insurance agent to represent you and help you protect your family. I am a person that loves people, and I love helping people. And the reason I became an agent, because I believe in generational wealth, and I can definitely help you do that. And for those of you who need additional income, I would encourage you to call me at 281-580-7995. My email address that goes to my personal email, I want to use that, is millerclarence@sbcglobal.net. millerclarence@sbcglobal.net, and that will come directly to me because I'm a hands-on person. Okay, I want to give you that personal touch. Okay, and I can assist you with being an agent. We can get you, if you work with me, I can get you up and running probably in about 2 or 3 weeks if you work with me. But if you don't work with me, it might take you a little bit longer. And you can start making money that will change your family life, okay? Whether you want to come in part-time or full-time, give me a call. Clarence Miller, 281-580-7995. And you're going to be with a company that love people, love helping people, and will help you create generational wealth for people. And at the same time, it's going to help you change your family's life forever, and your bank account. Okay. So, Mr. Lee, I certainly appreciate this. This has been a great experience for me, and I am just so excited. And you have definitely lived up to your reputation. I've heard a lot of great things about you.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate other folks saying great things about me and everything. Along those lines, if the thing that you didn't get to was any message of positivity and hope that you have for our global community that is maybe not in the insurance lane, but maybe they're living in India or Thailand or Australia or other places that they just need to hear positive message from somebody as wise as yourself. So maybe they're even of a different faith, but we know that even those folks of various faiths need to hear positive messages as well. So any message of positivity that you want to share with folks?
Well, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what your situation is, there is a tomorrow. And if you wake up in the morning, you're already ahead of the game. If your feet hit the floor, you need to take off running, okay? And don't just lay there. I am a true testament to that. I am 70 years old. I have a ruptured disc in my neck and back, and I don't wake up complaining, I have been actually retired twice. But, I tell people you retire to really go back to work and do what you really want to do, okay? And for those people who just work on the job and say they're going to stay home and just lay down, those are the ones who don't live very long, So stay up, stay active. And if you help somebody, that's when God is really going to truly bless you, because he sees that you're one of the true soldiers. And so he needs his soldiers to be around a long time. So no matter what type of illness or sickness you have, when you start helping other people, you're going to quickly forget your problems and your sickness and your illness. And then that's when you begin to heal anyway. Okay. So I never think about Clarence Miller. I grew up in a 4-room house. I'm not talking about 4 bedrooms, 4-room house. And it was 10 of us. And so, I was slept in a room, with all my brothers and sisters. We had a kitchen and we had a living room. But my mom always cooked food, for the neighbors. And I said, Mom, why you always give our food to the neighbors? She said, boy, you always have to help the poor folks. I was a mother, in case people never told you, we real poor. So I grew up being taught by my mom to always help other people. And Mother, I love you. That is the best lesson that you could have ever taught me. Okay. So at the end of the day, I'm Clarence Miller, just old country boy from Huntsville, Texas. I'm here to assist you. If you need insurance, any fashion form, call me at 281-580-7995 or email me at millerclarence@sbcglobal.net. I want to help you and help your family. And stay up, because tomorrow is always going to be better. Okay. Thank you.
I definitely agree with you, and I appreciate that. A very powerful message that you left, and I can definitely relate because my grandmother was actually a cafeteria worker. My grandfather was actually a farmer. That's the one on mom's side and all in that space. But I do remember going to a couple of summer school activities at her school that she was teaching at, or working at, I should say, and definitely, got that good food there. But she also was doing that good cooking, because you would oftentimes smell that food cooking, and it was that good old country cooking you were talking about when you came into the kitchen. And of course, Granddad would have that pickup truck and be taking goods to the auction or taking goods just around the community, because they lived in rural North Carolina. So I can definitely relate to that, because that was one side, and Grandma and Granddad on the other side were more of the kind of the middle class kind of community, because grandma founded the first African American library in Raleigh, North Carolina. And actually, Dad will be doing, I think, an event this weekend in the salute of her and all along those lines. And her husband, my grandfather, who I only knew briefly because he was, I think, one when I passed away, or maybe even less than one, but he was a biology professor and was actually who that Central Biology Building is named after to this day and all. I think they named it back in either the 90s or the 2000s, but he's had that honor for a while. Might have even been the 80s. I got to study my history, but that whole legacy thing is very much important. And I definitely am going to go out, speaking of legacy, with another one of Shirley Lou's commercials. But I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and I hope that you will come back on, as I've invited some of the others. And I know Nathan's been on a couple of times, but hopefully we'll see you back on again as well. Always glad to have the powerful representatives that Shirley is working with come in and share their stories. And you have done a great job and have definitely represented the company amazingly. So we're going to go out with Shirley's commercial to get us on out of here. But hopefully I'll be seeing you in the not too distant future.
Hey, see everybody at the top.
Sounds good.
Y'all have a great day.
Do the same.
At Shirley Lou and Associates, powered by First Financial Security, our mission is to help all people achieve financial security and peace of mind.
My team and I are here to help you reach financial security tomorrow and for generations to come.
She is one of the most sincere and compassionate people that I will ever meet in my life. She sincerely wants to build a legacy where no young woman that she meets is left destitute, that they are able to be self-sufficient, to provide for a family in an emergency, to build for their future and for our future generations.
At Shirley Lou and Associates, we are changing the face of insurance and retirement plans. Our mission is to lead, empower, and grow. We are the home of tax-free retirement. We provide comprehensive planning for businesses, rollovers for retirees, and individual personal financial planning.
I'm a very people-oriented person. It's important for me to make sure my clients feel in a safe environment, make sure I feel in a safe environment, that I can trust the people that I'm working with. And I feel that here working with Shirley and my team. These people are more like family to me.
We believe entrepreneurship is a possibility for all walks of life.
Reach out to us. We would love to have a conversation to see how we can help.
What has time told you about the power of friendship in your life? Hi, I'm Trevi A. McDonald, author of the novel Time Will Tell, a coming-of-age story about the power of friendship in the lives of 3 Chicago women who are attending their 10-year high school reunion, and the sequel, Roundabout Midnight, a story about resolving issues, healing hurts, and celebrating Black love. You can find out more about my books at my website, www.drtrevi.com. Thank you.
At Shirley Lou and Associates, powered by First Financial Security, our mission is to help all people achieve financial security and peace of mind.
My team and I are here to help you reach financial security tomorrow and for generations to come.
She is one of the most sincere and compassionate people that I will ever meet in my life. She sincerely wants to build a legacy where no young woman that she meets is left destitute, that they are able to be self-sufficient, to provide for a family in an emergency, to build for their future and for our future generations.
At Shirley Lou and Associates, we are changing the face of insurance and retirement plans. Our mission is to lead, empower, and grow. We are the home of tax-free retirement. We provide comprehensive planning for businesses, rollovers for retirees, and individual personal financial planning.
I'm a very people-oriented person. It's important for me to make sure my clients feel in a safe environment, make sure I feel in a safe environment, that I can trust the people that I'm working with. And I feel that here working with Shirley and my team. These people are more like family to me.
Shirley has donated time and resources to the Shelter House, Women of Good Works, Good 360, Women That Soar, local churches, and the LISA Initiative. The LISA initiative helps inform, educate, and empower women and their families' financial security. We believe entrepreneurship is a possibility for all walks of life.
Reach out to us. We would love to have a conversation to see how we can help.